All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. The name of the video is Nasty. Trump's border czar explains to Democrat that crossing the border illegally is a crime. Let's go and check this out immediately, guys. Let's jump into it. Let's do it.
Whenever someone gets arrested for a crime, they get booked into a jail, their child can't go with them. Just like if I got arrested tonight, my child couldn't go with me. So it's not about family separation.
Well, the interesting thing about your argument is that these people committed no crimes.
You enter the United States illegally,
did.
It's a crime. It's 8 U.S.C., 8 United States Code 1325. It's a crime to enter the United States illegally.
Mr. Holman, sir, what type of policy do you envision that will help children who are fleeing harm's way with their parents usually or some significant person in their lives have the opportunity to be in a safe, secure, wholesome environment?
Guys, really quickly, the way he just framed that question is absolutely intriguing, right? That guy, I think his name was Mr. Green, he seems to be assuming that the individuals that are fleeing harm's way are actually going to be, qualified, let's say, asylum seekers. In fact, they are not, right? They're not generally fleeing harm's way. If that was the case, then high 90% wouldn't be declined for actual asylum, right? So the assumption in itself that he's framing is kind of like a gotcha question to begin with, but let's go and see where this takes us, guys. We're not going to stop so much here.
Secure, wholesome environment.
Well, first of all, your question about raising your hands, if you would have said if I support zero tolerance, I would have raised my hand. Not family separation, zero tolerance. You seem to confuse those two issues.
Okay, well, if you would, I'm going to ask that you kindly address my question, but since you raised zero tolerance, I'm not sure what you mean by zero tolerance. Are you saying zero tolerance, no one ever coming to the United States? Is that your zero tolerance policy?
No, you're referring to family separations that have happened under numerous presidents, not just this president.
Okay,
but zero tolerance, what you're referring to is family separations, zero tolerance that was put in place by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. It was zero tolerance to prosecute those who knowingly, intentionally violate our laws.
So, and supporting that policy, you would support family separation then?
Whenever someone gets arrested for a crime, they get booked into a jail, their child can't go with them. Just like if I got arrested tonight, my child couldn't go with me. So it's not about family separation.
Well, the interesting thing about your argument is that these people committed no crimes.
You enter the United States illegally.
They committed a crime.
It's 8 U.S.C., 8 United States Code 1325.
We have laws for
United
this.
States illegally.
It is not a crime. It's a civil offense.
No, sir, it is not. It's a violation of criminal code, Title 8, United States Code 1325. Illegal entry in the United States. First offense is a misdemeanor. Second offense, if you've been ordered, removed, and returned, is a felony.
I agree with that. I don't agree with you on that point. But
if that was the case, then he wouldn't have just said that. See, this guy's kind of starting out to kind of be somewhat of a fool, guys.
You would then separate the children.
If you have no option, if someone's being prosecuted and getting sent to U.S. Marshal's custody or to the local jail, the child can't go with them. That happens to U.S. families every day across the country. I think what we're seeing today could have been prevented if Congress was to close the loopholes we've asked them to close. I mean, we proved back in FY 14 and 15 when I worked for Secretary Jay Johnson, who I respect greatly, he let us build family detention to hold family units in a family residential center long enough to see a judge. And it took about 40, 45 days. And most of them, 90% lost their cases, and we sent them home. And the numbers went down. It worked. So we're asking Congress, look, we've already proved this worked under the Obama administration. How come we're not doing it now? So I think Congress needs to fix this loophole. Let us detain families. If they're really escaping fear, persecution, and death, I don't see a problem in being in a family residential center with medical care, pediatricians, child psychologists on staff, 3 squares a day, 6 sets of new clothes, access to lawyers, access to families. These are open air campus facilities. If it saves a life, and that's what I've been testifying the last 4 times, this isn't just about securing our border. This isn't just about enforcing laws, it's about saving lives. It's about 31% of women being
at the border.
If we close these loopholes, we're going to save women from being sexually assaulted. We're going to save children from dying, and we're going to stop bankrolling criminal cartels who are making millions of dollars a day because of the laziness of this country not to fix the loopholes.
And you quote or give several statistics there in your written testimony, and I think that those are very important. And are those statistics that you give, are they supported by your 34 years of service to our country?
Yeah. Absolutely. And one caveat, the chairwoman mentioned the 87%. I did not say 87% did not show up at their hearing. I said 80% lost their case. So that the in-absentia rate varies, but every number I quoted today in my testimony, and the numbers I just recently quoted, came off the Executive Office of Immigration Review, the Immigration Court website. They're open to the public. I printed these up last night. So these are Immigration Court's own data. This is not my data. This is data coming from the immigration judges.
And let me ask you about a couple of those statistics that I pulled from your report, and just tell me if they're accurate to the best of your knowledge. 70% of illegal immigrants coming into the country now are family units. Is that accurate to the best of your recollection or best of your knowledge?
70 to 72%. It varies every month.
And then it says here, as I see, that roughly 90% of all family units fail to show up for court proceedings.
That was, I quoted the acting Secretary McAleen when he made that statement. That number does vary depending on when you look at it and what city you look at it. It can go anywhere from 90% not showing up to 40% not showing up. It depends on what court you look at. So that number fluctuates so much. So that 90% number I use, I quoted the Secretary, as the chairwoman mentioned a few minutes ago, in his testimony 6 months ago.
And what about 85 to 90% don't qualify? For those that do show up, then 85 to 90% don't qualify for asylum.
That's immigration court data. It shows it's anywhere from 13%, 12%, 13 to 15% for the 3 Central American countries that do not, they get a meritorious claim, 13 to 15%, which means 87 to 85% lose their case.
And then those that are ordered to be removed.
I'm guessing these are the updated numbers. The last time where I even researched this was roughly 2 months ago. So if these are the updated numbers, we'll go with that.
Less than 2% actually were removed or left the country. Is that correct?
Actually, it's closer to 1%, but I was generous saying 2%. It's actually, it's 1.6 just recently, but it's been 1.2 to 1.6. So yeah, most do not leave. And that's another enticement. That's why more people keep coming, because families in Central America, even though they know most will lose their case, they're not going home.
And there's, as I understand from your report, an 800,000 case backlog in the immigration court. Is that correct?
It's now over 1 million. There's 800,000, but I went to the website last night and they're reporting 1 million.
Would you agree that these figures are staggering, Mr. Holman?
Absolutely. I mean, when I was the ICE director, the backlog was already near 600,000. So what's happened in the last 2 years?
It's done nothing.
And you say on page 3 of your report, you say illegal crossings are down, consistent from the high in May, but we are still at high numbers beyond last year. And then this is the sentence I want to highlight. The significant gains made on this issue are because of our president and the men and women of CBP and ICE, and not because of anyone in this room. First of all, I want to apologize to you that Congress has failed the American people. And I'd ask for you to deliver a message, and please tell the men and women of CBP and the men and women of ICE that we appreciate their hard work and what they do, and that there are still members of Congress who want to solve this problem. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Now you go back.
I mean, guys, that would absolutely be a great idea, because when it comes to specifically the asylum process, the reason why people are being just let in to the country to wait, and I'm talking about large scale, like ridiculous numbers of people, is because Congress won't honestly sit down and be like, asylum is this, right? So if you don't qualify for this, then we're not even going to let you in the first place, right? So who needs to fix this is Congress. The president really can't do too much, to be honest. Right now, I mean, they can put the fear out there, sure, why not, right? But at the end of the day, Congress is going to be the one that actually has to kind of solidify the actual ongoing definition of what asylum is. Economic migrancy does not qualify. The reason why they're saying now what 80 to 90% are being declined is because they're all economic migrants, and we all know this based off of the interviews of the individuals that were just walking through our open border. Guys, we interviewed them. Yeah, but all right.
My first question is for Mr. Holman. You know, we have talked about these loopholes in previous hearings as well, and you have eloquently talked about them just now. And I've said before, and I will repeat again, I think these loopholes actually incentivize people to travel thousands of miles pay cartels huge amounts of money. A lot of the women are getting, we've had evidence how children are being by the cartels. And so changing some of these loopholes and clearing them, I think will help mitigate the entire problem. I think all of us care about people that are being, if somebody's being by cartels or children being by cartels, of course, none of us up here would want to ignore that. But there's a difference in how we should mitigate the problem. And so, Mr. Homan, I have 6 bills that I have introduced and sponsored that would try to clean up these loopholes to stop incentivizing people from coming here. And one of them is to raise the credible fear standard for asylum, because as you said, the initial standard is too low.
It is entirely
as
too low.
evidenced by the numbers. I mean, like 85 to 90% of them pass the initial phase, but then, a huge number, 86, 87%, when they finally go in front of a court, don't.
Yeah.
So if we solve that problem with the loopholes, how would that affect this going back to Mexico, the MPP protocol? Could we get rid of it?
Guys, all right, so what it sounds like a lot of the times is when these individuals are coming into the country, it's almost like they're just saying, hey, this guy in my neighborhood really doesn't like me and I'm scared of him. It seems like it's like the bar is that low, guys. It seems like that. And then when they actually get in front of a judge, the actual asylum itself, they're going to be declined for it because it's nonsense. That's not a reason to come. You get what I'm saying here? What Congress needs to do is say that exact standard that things are held to by the judge needs to be the initial standard. That's it, bro. That's the standard. You're coming because some guy in your neighborhood doesn't like you and he's been chasing you around the street, I don't know, taking your lunch money and things like that. Guys, that is not the reason to come to the United States of America. You could literally just move to another town within your country. People are going to be like, well, how can you ask that of someone? Well, they've walked 3,000 miles. Okay. So 30 miles shouldn't be the problem. But you know what?
Do you think?
Well, certainly it would have an effect on it, because if we had a meaningful asylum bar that people who couldn't come up and just claim to say 2 or 3 key lines to get approval, they stopped coming. Because look, the bottom line is the data of the immigration courts are clear that 87% of these people do not qualify or fail to show up.
Right.
So if they know before they leave their homeland, spend their life savings making this dangerous journey, that the chance of getting approved, because they know they're not escaping fear and persecution from the government because of race, religion, political beliefs, they'll stop coming. And enforcement of law has a meaningful effect. If you look at consequence of deterrence, it means something. And a couple of things I just want to add to this is, I've heard a lot of testimony here today, but I'm hearing today that people think the system's rigged against the immigrant now, but the approval rates and the denial rates have not changed from FY 14-15 to today. So if there's a fix put in, the denial rates back in 14 and 15 under our first family detention center were still about 87 to 90%. So the denial rate remains the same. So I don't see the correlation and there's this fix in. And as far as representation, does representation make it different? If you look at ERO data, the approval rates anywhere from 10% to high to 20%, and representation rate has not changed beyond 20%, even though they're represented by attorney. And that's tracked in ERO data sheet. So representation really doesn't make a difference because they don't qualify, and representation is not going to change the facts of the case.
So it was a waste of time the entire time you left them you let them to basically stay in the United States of America while waiting for the trial. It was a waste of time. You can just honestly tell people at the border, what's the issue? Tell me what the problem is. What is your government doing to you? How are you specifically being persecuted exclusively due to the color of your skin or your gender? Tell me how. Oh, no, that's not the case. Well, then you don't qualify for asylum. You don't. And you're going to have to prove that. How are you going to prove that? You can't, because it's not true, bro. But either way.
And this is all available on the Immigration Court database.
Thank you, Mr. Homan. Another question I have for you, Mr. Homan, is it fair to say that right now the immigrants that are seeking asylum that are in Mexico waiting, are they able to say that, oh, I'm afraid to be in Mexico and have, get a hearing on that? I think my data says that, yes, they are. Fear screenings are established part of the program. And as of October 15, 2019, USCIS completed over 7,400 screenings to assess the fear of return to Mexico. So people that are in Mexico under this program can actually say, I'm afraid, and go in front of someone.
The interviews at the beginning, when they enter the United States, if they cannot be returned to Mexico if they establish a clear danger to return to Mexico, that they'd be at, in harm's way. So that's in the front. They can't be sent back to Mexico without that interview occurring, that there is no fear to return to Mexico. That's on the front end of that.
All right.
And I want to add one thing.
Sure.
I do think there are some in Central America that qualify for asylum. So I'm not painting with a broad stroke saying it's all fraud, but based on the data and the findings of the judges across this country,
but 90%,
87% do not. There are certainly people who certainly do fear return to their homeland, but the problem is when you got 80% rate of denial and fraud, you're backing up the system for the people in this world
who actually need help,
that are really escaping fear and persecution from their homeland, such as some of the African nations and other nations around the world, who really do need our help.
Yeah.
And the system is being, asylum claims are up over 2,000% in the last couple of years. It's troubling for the ones that really do need our help.
Right. Guys, so I have a couple of things here. When it comes to like the Remain in Mexico policies, guys, I mean, it's tricky. I do think that we do need something like that, but obviously it needs to be better secured because if you can look at kind of what happens there, and unfortunately a lot of the times there is a lot of instances where women are being, let's say, forcefully taken, right, in places like that. Okay, so it is a troubling scenario to put people into, specifically if they're waiting for to enter into the United States of America, if they actually have real qualifying cases. Now, I'm not sure anyone on a serious note would honestly back completely denying every single, I guess, hint or glimpse of immigration, guys. I'm not sure that's an actual valid point. I would never actually side with that scenario. But if we are currently being defrauded consistently by other nations, right, by people from other countries coming in basically as economic migrants, making money, sending that money back to their country, and to the point where their countries are now shooting up their GDP exclusively off of remittance, meaning that people are working in America and sending their money back to the country, and their country's getting richer. This is not a thing that we have ever accepted, guys. I think sometimes people just don't like the tone of things that are being said. But in all actuality, the actual truth of the matter doesn't change here. And that's what it makes it kind of hard to speak to some people, because they're kind of trying to tone police a serious matter, and you care too much about how things are being said while disregarding the actual truth of the matter, that we need to fix this serious issue. It's a serious issue, right? But all right, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. And if you guys are new here, please like and subscribe.
Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.